Behind the metal detectors and baggage claims, some dark stories unfold. Smuggled gold, illegal food, and the secret transport of high-end gadgets.
We got a gun with silver bullets for werewolves, lead bullets for vampires.
Airports have seen it all. In today's video, we're diving into real cases where people were caught red-handed trying to break the law at the airport.
¿Has tenido pasaporte? Okay.
There are all kinds of reasons you might get called in for an airport interview, but this woman definitely wasn't expecting this one. Apparently, her features didn't quite match her ID. And before you jump to conclusions, hold on, she wasn't up to anything shady. Turns out, the facial recognition system just didn't pick her up. When they asked for a biometric scan, she casually mentioned she'd had a nose job, and the mystery was solved. The system recognized her just fine after that. There was no drama, no fuss, just a calm explanation and full cooperation. Honestly, props to her for staying cool and handling it like a champ. Name game.
Ever been known by any other names?
A Malaysian man thought he'd found a loophole, but airport officers were one step ahead. When he landed with his girlfriend, something didn't sit right. His photo and passport details matched someone previously deported for overstaying. A guy named Tan Zong.
Is that you?
No.
He denied everything. Wrong guy, he claimed, but a little digging revealed the truth. He was Tan Zong, just with a new name and a bold plan to dodge a 3-year re-entry ban. Didn't work. His visa was canceled on the spot, and he was sent off to detention. His girlfriend, cleared of any shady business, still chose to go home with him. Love apparently sticks, even when the name doesn't. Sticky situation. Nobody would suspect a bag of dates, right? That's how master plans are born. In March 2025, a 56-year-old man landed at Delhi's Indira Gandhi International Airport, thinking he had cracked the code. He hid 172 grams of gold inside actual dates. Yep, the sweet, chewy kind. Each piece was carefully hollowed out, stuffed and sealed to look just like the real deal. Almost genius. But customs officers weren't in the mood for snacks. Something about that fruit haul felt off. And sure enough, they cracked it open and struck gold, literally. So next time someone is offering you dates at the airport, maybe ask what's inside first. Soul smuggler.
As you can see, she's got food in every bag. It looks like she's got an...
She claimed she had nothing to declare, but customs wasn't buying it. A woman arriving from China set off alarms when officers found eggs, meat, fish, and fresh olives tucked inside her shoes. Yep, inside her shoes. These weren't just odd snacks. They were high-risk items, the kind that could wreak havoc on Australia's poultry industry if any disease slipped through. She was slapped with a $340 fine, but couldn't pay. Things got tense. Without funds, she nearly faced immigration trouble for not being able to support herself. Then came a twist. Her nephew unexpectedly showed up and paid on her behalf.
Nephew. Yeah. So what's the fine?
$340.
$340. Okay.
Are you able to assist us?
Yeah, I can assist you.
Thank you, we appreciate that.
She dodged deportation this time, but not without a firm warning. Next time, leave the olives at home.
So what we do have is an egg.
Cash snacks. Just when you thought airport security had seen it all, a passenger at Kolkata Airport showed up with a suitcase packed, and I mean packed, with candy, over 1,000 pieces, headed to Bangkok. But customs wasn't buying the sweet story. Nobody travels with that much sugar, so they cracked a few open. And surprise, no chocolate, no jelly centers, just tiny plastic bags stuffed with US dollars. Yep, Cold, hard cash disguised as candy. It was sneaky, I'll give them that. But instead of Bangkok, he got a ticket to custody. Even the sweetest smuggling tricks can't fool the eagle-eyed security. Peach problem.
This is a serious issue because there could be a caterpillar or an insect.
Final chance to declare any food items, and the couple confidently said, nope, nothing to declare. You can probably guess how that went. Biosecurity officers soon got their hands on some undeclared snacks. And the food itself wasn't even the main issue. One peach had a hole. That meant pests, and pests mean trouble. But the real drama? The officers found a declaration card, filled out in English and the couple's native language. So yeah, they knew. A fellow passenger was called over to help translate. That's when the story took a twist. The couple blamed the kids for forgetting to take the peaches out. Then came another twist. Their passports showed they'd been to Australia multiple times. End result, running late for their next flight, and slapped with a $360 fine. Sole purpose. These slippers were hiding more than just tired feet. At Bengaluru Airport, customs officers got suspicious real quick. Something about a pair of slippers that felt way too heavy. Like, why are your flip-flops built like bricks, sir? So, they took a closer look. Peeled open the soles, and there they were, gold bars, neatly tucked inside like it was a regular pocket. The guy had flown in from Bangkok, probably thinking this genius hiding spot would go unnoticed. But 1.2 kilos of gold isn't exactly subtle. Officers weighed it, tested it, and yep, real deal. Let's just say, those slippers weren't made for walking. Curio Christmas.
The strings are closed to keep the soul in it. It's a war trophy.
Biosecurity Officer Brett was expecting fruit or plants, not maggot jewelry and vampire kits. Edward Meyer had flown into New Zealand with luggage straight out of a horror museum, and technically it was artifacts bound for an exhibit. Inside, a flute, cannibal forks, crushed foot slippers, and a painted cockroach named Michael Jackson. Brett stayed cool until he spotted the vampire hunting kit.
Genuine vampire killing kit.
Complete with a real, working antique. Cue the raised eyebrows. Customs held the kit for a bit, then let it go. But the one item flagged? A cow hairball. Yep, of all things. Brett called it a Christmas of curiosities. Honestly, not your average luggage check.
So as long as that cow's alive, he's got hair in his second stomach getting bigger and bigger.
Golden limp. He showed up at the airport looking like he'd had a rough week, leg in a full plaster cast, limping around like a champ. But security wasn't buying the act. Something just felt off. So they peeled back the injury, and yeah, not a scratch underneath. Instead, pure gold, molded around his leg like a fancy golden shin guard. Dude tried to play dumb. I don't know how it got there. Sure, buddy. Maybe it just snuck in overnight. Nice try. That cast could have been easily the priciest one ever made. And his whole injured traveler routine? Totally busted. They really need to retire the fake plaster trick. Customs officers are onto it by now. Here's another guy who tried it anyway, this time with a cast around his arm. Only problem? No injury underneath. The moment the officer started peeling it back, you could see the regret on his face. 12 bars of gold in one cast. That thing must have weighed a ton. All that effort just to get busted. Puff and bluff. Customs officers knew something was off the second they saw his bag. Way too puffy for a guy claiming to be on a simple holiday. So they checked. What did they find? Way more than the legal limit of 200 cigarettes. Like a lot more. The guy tried to play it cool and said he was just a traveler, but his story started falling apart faster than a soggy boarding pass.
They're for yourself?
Yes, I will do.
All them are
not for myself, for sell.
To sell?
Yeah.
You're going to sell them?
Yeah.
And then, adding insult to injury, it turned out he wasn't just any passenger. He worked for the airline. Yep, an actual airline official trying to sneak past security with an overstuffed smoke stash. Let's just say that quick side hustle went up in smoke real fast. Family business. They thought they had it all figured out. Baby stroller? Check. Casual family vibes? Double check. But when they rolled into Istanbul airport, customs wasn't buying it. Something was off. The stroller felt way too heavy. And sure enough, officers took a closer look and found the real cargo. Instead of diapers and baby toys, they had smuggled goods tucked neatly under the stroller like no one would notice. Thick bars of pure gold. Nice try. But trying to pass off crime as a family vacation? That only works in movies. Voodoo baggage.
No? Okay, can you open, okay?
Officer Andrea thought it was just another luggage check until she popped open a bag from Kuala Lumpur and froze. The passenger insisted she had nothing to declare, but the contents said otherwise. Old bones, a voodoo box, dried mushrooms, a taped-up container, and even a shoe with a secret compartment. Turns out the bones were 5 to 6 years old and used in her voodoo practice. Creepy? Very. But since they were clean and safe, biosecurity let her keep them. Andrea did confiscate some undeclared cigarettes and gave a warning. But those unsettling vibes? Yeah, those stuck. She quietly hoped she wasn't being turned into a voodoo doll. Honestly, I'd be clutching my rosary too. Food fail. A woman flying into Australia got stopped by customs when the scanners picked up something odd. Food, packed tight in her suitcases. And let's just say, it wasn't exactly a sweet surprise. She failed to declare a whole stash of restricted items. Fresh veggies that didn't look so fresh, a sketchy bag of seeds, uncooked dumplings, and even a really grimy pair of shoes. Basically, a suitcase full of biohazards. In Australia, you have to declare stuff like that when you land. She didn't. The officers tossed out the contraband and hit her with a $360 fine. Not the most appetizing welcome.
I hope that the passenger understands how important it is to declare, and she does that next time.
Sleeve it to me. Now here's a plot twist for your in-flight entertainment. At Kochi Airport, March 8th wasn't just another landing for Air India. Cabin crew member Shafi thought he had the perfect smuggle scheme. 1,487 grams of gold wrapped around his hands like bracelets and tucked under his shirt sleeves. Smooth, right? Not quite. Turns out customs had already caught wind of his golden gamble. The second he tried to glide through the green channel like nothing was up, he was busted. 1 minute you're serving tea midair, the next you're handing over smuggled treasure on the tarmac. Not your routine flight. Passport puzzle.
English? No, Spanish. Spaniel, okay. No English.
A man flew into Auckland from Hong Kong, and let's just say he made things very interesting for airport security. First red flag, he hesitated writing his name on the arrival form. Then came the language slip. He claimed to be from Brazil, but said he spoke Spanish, not Portuguese. And then came the passport. The photo didn't quite match. His excuse? He used to be fit. Sure, but how do you explain the ears? You can't work those out at the gym. Oh, and the MasterCard in his wallet had an entirely different name.
This is MasterCard, and it's got the name Valdivia on it.
It just kept unraveling until finally, the man admitted the passport wasn't his. He was sent back home, minus the lies this time.
Portuguese.
Yeah.
Muy
But you speak Spanish, don't you?
Portuguese.
Budget blunder.
To any kind of saying that you're here to work, but I'm saying.
Meet Richard, fresh off a flight from San Francisco to Sydney with nothing but a few clothes and zero money. Yep, zero. Now, Australia's not exactly the kind of place you stroll into penniless, so of course, security pulled him aside for a little chat, and Richard wasn't too happy about it. Maybe he was on some soul-searching, ditch the 9-to-5 kind of mission.
Well, they tell me I have to have money to come into the country.
Or maybe just channeling his inner caveman. But even backpackers carry enough for a sandwich or two. The internet wasn't convinced. Most thought Richard had some shady plans. When asked to sign a paper saying he'd have to work to stay off the streets, he crumpled it up and tossed it in the trash. That was that. Richard's wild journey ended before it even began. Sent back home, dreams and all.
You got a garbage can anywhere right here?
Rotten find?
4 days? How come? What for?
Talk about a fishy excuse. This woman's luggage certainly raised some eyebrows during her trip to Vietnam. Australian border officers weren't impressed when they discovered her strange stash of rotting seafood crawling with maggots. She'd claimed the fish was for a Vietnamese restaurant she was visiting, but something about her story didn't sit right. When asked how she could afford the trip despite living on a pension, she explained that her boyfriend in Vietnam had footed the bill. Suspicious, the officers dug deeper and flagged her luggage for possible drug smuggling. Though tests cleared her of any illegal substances, the maggot-infested seafood was enough to ruin her travel plans. Looks like she got caught with more than just bad seafood. Rolex racket. A $16,000 Rolex and no tax? Yeah, that's already setting off alarm bells. Under the tourist refund scheme, anything worth over $900 brought back within 12 months needs to be declared, and the GST refunded earlier has to be paid back. But this guy, he was cooking up something bigger. He had 80 receipts on him, showing a wild $53,000 shopping spree just 4 days before flying to Vietnam. And now, he's trying to claim thousands in GST refunds. Again, the kicker, this was his third Vietnam trip in just 1 month. He's already raked in over $10K in GST returns. As for the Rolex, it's not leaving the airport until he coughs up the $1,600 tax. No cash, no watch. It's got 30 days before it's shipped off to long-term storage.
That's $16,000. Rolex. More than 900, yeah?
Shiny mistake. Now this is what you call high-stakes baggage. A Russian man returning from Dubai tried to glide through the nothing to declare lane at Moscow's Sheremetyevo airport with 26,000 diamonds stuffed in plastic bags. Yeah, 26,000. Customs opened his bags and found gems of all cuts and colors, glinting like spilled treasure. If that wasn't enough, his stash also included 249 boxes of iPhone 5s and a few loose devices just rolling around. His total haul was about 5 million rubles, or $163,000. Oh, and did I mention he's unemployed? Russia's pretty clear. Declare anything over $10,000 in gems or metals, but he skipped that part and landed in cuffs instead. Word to the wise. Don't dodge taxes so hard you end up dodging freedom too. Liquid gold. Ever heard of a $60,000 drink? No? Well, you're about to. A passenger flying in from Dubai on an Air India Express flight landed with a bunch of juice bottles. Looked innocent enough, but customs officers weren't thirsty. They were suspicious. So they cracked one open, drained it, and out came chunks of gold.
Only this much? I don't know.
3 solid pieces, each weighing 125.5 grams. And just when you think that's wild, turns out the guy was also hiding more gold in his mouth. Yep, forget mints. He was packing precious metals. This wasn't refreshment. It was a full-blown smuggling setup, disguised as a juice run. Glam and gold. A hair clip worth 20.5 lakhs, and sneakers priced at 19 lakhs? Sounds like runway fashion, right? Nope. This all went down at Hyderabad Airport. Customs officials caught 2 separate passengers smuggling gold in plain sight. One had a hair clip, totally ordinary, except it was loaded with hidden gold. The other, rocking a pair of sneakers where the shoelace holes, yeah, those tiny things, were crafted from gold. That's some next-level DIY. Smart? Maybe, but not smart enough. Both got caught. So let that be a little reminder. Getting creative with gold smuggling might earn you points for effort, but it's not exactly a winning move. Plant smuggler. In March 2019, one woman tried to turn herself into a walking greenhouse. Lee was caught with 947 cacti and succulents. Yes, nearly 1,000. Stuffed into stockings and strapped to her body like some kind of prickly armor. But this wasn't just a strange fashion choice. Her leafy loot included 8 endangered species, worth over $7,000. She landed in court and got slapped with 100 hours of community service. New Zealand's biosecurity ministry wasn't amused, and neither were the customs officers who had to deal with her spiky stash. Checkpoint chaos.
The whole area was backed up. They had to shut down. They evacuated the whole terminal.
It was just past dawn at Houston's Hobby Airport when all hell broke loose at security. TSA agents spotted something suspicious in a teenage Boy Scouts bag, something that looked not so safe. Suddenly, officers were shouting. Travelers were told to evacuate. The area was cleared. Flights were delayed. The bomb squad rolled in. Turns out, it was a novelty item. Totally hollow. A dummy. But yeah, still not the best thing to pack before a flight. The teen was just 17, probably didn't think twice, but airport security definitely did. For those caught in the chaos, it wasn't the smoothest start to the morning.
TSA is evacuating everybody, but now not anymore.
The golden route. It's one shocker after another, huh? This time, it started with just a single suitcase at Kerala Airport. A diplomatic bag, no less. You know, the kind that's usually off limits. But something about it felt weird. So, officers took a peek and found 30 kilos of gold stuffed inside like it was no big deal. But that was just scratching the surface. Turns out, this same route had been used multiple times. By the time investigators connected the dots, they were staring at 180 kilos of smuggled gold. Diplomatic channels, inside help, the whole shady web, a scam hiding in plain sight. And with that one suitcase, the whole thing came crashing down. Bagged dreams. This couple looked a little too jittery and way too overpacked for comfort. So, naturally, they caught the attention of customs. Then came the dreaded moment. Officers asked the guy to open his suitcase. Now, you can't say no, cause that just screams suspicious. So he unzipped it. Everything looked clean, just clothes and the usual. But the officers weren't buying it. One of them tugged at the inner lining, and bingo, out came thick stacks of cash, hidden snugly in the seams. Their big plan? Over. Whatever fantasy they had in mind was gone in an instant. Smuggling gold. Welcome to how to smuggle gold in the cleverest way and still get caught 101. Step 1. Grab a tub of face cream from your local store. Step 2. Take your donut-shaped gold stash, stick 4 rods of it inside the cream, smooth it over, reseal the tub, and tuck the whole thing into a shoe. Genius, right? Well, not quite. Someone caught on, so maybe don't follow this guy's playbook. Still, gotta admit, props for creativity. Goldilocks. You'd be shocked at the lengths smugglers go to, like these two who got busted at Chennai International Airport in India, despite all the effort they put into their wild plan. Customs officers got suspicious of their wigs, and turns out, with good reason. The wigs were literally glued onto shaved heads, hiding tightly sealed packages underneath. What was inside? 3 raw chunks of gold, a fat stack of cash, and yep, even more gold stashed in their socks. Peeling those wigs off must have hurt, but not as much as getting caught. Foiled flight. It was supposed to be just another routine flight, but not for Shakul Shrestha. This Jet Airways flight attendant had a whole other mission mid-air. Wrapped tight in foil and stashed in her baggage was nearly $500,000 in foreign currency. Yep, foil. As in the fool the X-ray machine kind of plan. Turns out her partner was no small-time hustler either. Amit Malhotra, the 40-year-old mastermind behind a slick gold-for-cash loop between India and Hong Kong. But that shiny plan was totally grounded. Airport security peeled back the foil, and all their secrets spilled out. Let's just say, this wasn't the kind of crash landing they expected. Gold Walk. January 25th, Chennai Airport. Flight EK 544 from Dubai had just landed. Passengers were pouring in, nothing unusual, until one guy caught the eye of customs. Maybe it was his walk, maybe it was just instinct. Officers pulled him aside for a closer look, and yep, bingo. Strapped to his body were 340 grams of gold, not loose change. We're talking nearly 90 lakh worth. Oh, and if that wasn't enough, he also had 82 lakh in cash. This wasn't some oops, I forgot to declare that situation. This was a full-blown smuggling op. They arrested him on the spot, and just like that, a normal day at the airport turned into something way bigger. Golden beverage. What if there was gold instead of juice in juice boxes? Sounds like a bad idea, right? Well, it happened at Delhi Airport. Customs officers were watching an Indian national who'd just flown in from Bangkok, and something about his behavior seemed off. So they decided to take a closer look at his bags. Turns out, their instincts were spot on. After a thorough inspection, they found gold hidden inside juice boxes. Not exactly a refreshing drink, huh? The man was arrested right then and there under the Customs Act of 1962. This is what happens when you put things in places they don't belong. Expensive trip. 4 Sudanese women headed to Sharjah via Air Arabia thought they'd pull off the perfect smuggling job, but Mumbai Customs had other plans. These passengers tried to sneak out a jaw-dropping 1.36 crore rupees worth of foreign currency, US dollars and UAE dirhams, hidden in some, let's just say, unusual places. The money was found stashed in body cavities, under clothing, and even in handbags. It was only when the officers noticed suspicious behavior that they took a closer look. After a detailed examination, the women admitted to trying to smuggle the cash. Now, after being arrested, they're facing a tough future as investigations continue. Looks like their attempt to cash in didn't go as planned. Skull surprise. A German professor learned the hard way that even innocent souvenirs can land you in deep trouble. When passing through Fort Lauderdale Airport, he was shocked to find himself arrested after his luggage revealed a human skull. Turns out, he'd bought the skull from a market in Rome, thinking it was just a cool keepsake for 50 euros. He didn't realize transporting bones across borders was illegal, but that didn't stop authorities from arresting him. His souvenir was seized and sent to Italy's police science department for further analysis. Talk about a history lesson gone wrong. Eye mummy. At first glance, the guy just looked tense, walking stiff like he'd pulled every muscle in his body. But security at Hong Kong Customs had seen enough to know this wasn't nerves. They pulled him aside, peeled back his clothes, and found 94 iPhones. Yep, 94. Strapped across his chest, legs, arms, like he was cosplaying a tech version of a mummy. The plan was to sneak him into China, sell him high, and cash in big. But carrying that many iPhones doesn't make you slick. It just just makes you clunky, and clunky gets caught. Cannonball panic. A diver thought he was bringing home treasure. Instead, he brought airport chaos. Back in 2012, TSA agents at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood Airport were stunned to find an 18th century cannonball. Yep, coral covered and all, tucked inside a checked bag. The guy had fished it out near a shipwreck, thinking it'd make a cool souvenir. But turns out, even centuries-old cannonballs can still pack a punch. The bomb squad was called in. The baggage area was evacuated. 3 flights were delayed. Nearly 300 passengers were affected. In the end, the TSA took it for safe destruction. Lesson learned. Maybe don't pack historic explosives next to your flip-flops. Sketchy business. At Ibiza Airport, customs weren't just checking for liquids and laptops. They ended up catching a £383,000 Picasso. A 64-year-old man flying in from Zurich claimed he had a copy of Trois Personnages tucked in his luggage. He even waved around a scribbled invoice for just $1,300. Nice try. But when officers took a proper look, they found a second receipt. This one from a Zurich gallery, listing the real price. Yeah, very different story. Turns out, when you're importing art over £125,000 into the EU, you owe some serious taxes. And this guy was clearly trying to dodge them. Spanish authorities seized the sketch and handed it to the Ibiza court. The man was booked for smuggling. Even with modern art, lying doesn't pay. Shocking surprise. Back in 2021, TSA officers at Bradley International found a little more than travel essentials in one passenger's carry-on. A disguised self-defense device and some loose rounds were tucked in with her belongings. Definitely not what security was expecting during a routine screening. The 41-year-old woman was headed to Baltimore, but her bag raised red flags. State police were called in, the items were confiscated, and her travel plans were, let's say, adjusted. It's worth noting, self-defense tools like those aren't allowed in carry-ons. You can pack them in checked luggage, but only if they're stored safely and can't accidentally go off. This little mix-up, a costly reminder that airport security doesn't miss a thing, not even something hiding in plain sight. Thank you very much for watching the video. Do like it and share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to not miss any of the upcoming amazing videos. Thank you once again.